Welcome, everyone, to the Lyceum Project, AI Ethics with Aristotle. The project is a joint venture of Oxford's Institute for Ethics in AI, Stanford's Human-Centered AI program, the leading Greek scientific research center Democritus, and the World Human Forum. My name is Tasioulas. I'm the director of the Institute for Ethics in AI at Oxford. I want to begin by thanking everyone for their act of faith today. The faith that we need not only technology, but also philosophy and the humanities in order to meet the profound challenges of the present time, including those associated with artificial intelligence. We're also very grateful, in a deeper way, for being able to host this event in the inspiring city of Athens, because this is the city, of course, where Socrates pioneered the method of rational discourse and dialogue that remains the heart of philosophy today. The city where figures like Solon, Cleisthenes, and above all the Athenian people themselves conducted the most audacious experiment in democratic self-government in the history of the world. And of course, we can hardly forget that we are gathered here just a stone's throw from the site of Aristotle's Lyceum. As we know, the rapid and astonishing developments in AI technology confront us with profound ethical challenges. Challenges about using this technology in good ways for valuable ends and minimizing the risks it may pose. At the core of the white paper that Josh, Ober, and I have published today, and you can access it through a QR code available just outside this auditorium, at the core of that paper is the thesis that Aristotle's ethical thought provides the best framework for addressing the challenges that AI poses. And there are two main claims that are central to our paper. The first is that at the core of ethics is a rich account of human flourishing, of what it is to live a good life as a human being, what Aristotle called eudaimonia, and that this involves the cultivation and exercise of our distinctive human capacities, especially developing the excellences of mind and character that enable us to live according to reason. On this Aristotelian view, the role of artificial intelligence is not to produce other moral beings with comparable standing to humans, beings that would be fellow citizens or co-workers or friends or lovers. Rather, AI systems should be thought of as intelligent tools that enable us to flourish as individuals and communities. So that's the first theme, about making human flourishing central to our ethics of AI. The second theme is that for AI technology to achieve its goal of promoting individual flourishing and the common good, it must be subject to participatory and informed democratic control. It must not be the plaything of powerful elites. And this fits with Aristotle's definition of a true citizen, someone who rules and in turn is ruled. And one of the things we explore in our paper is how AI technology, which we often hear of primarily as a threat to democracy, as a threat to the ethos of civil and rational debate that democracy requires. Alongside that genuine issue, we must also think of AI tools as enabling more participatory forms of democratic engagement. Josh will say more in a moment about the contents of the white paper, but as I said, you can download it from the QR code that is now available outside. Let me say something about the spirit of the Lyceum Project. We do not appeal to Aristotle as an unquestionable authority who can spare us the trouble of thinking for ourselves. Instead, our idea is that Aristotle's ethical thought contains universal truths about human nature, about ethics, about political community, and that these truths offer the best foundation for wrestling with the challenges of AI today and also with much else. But these ideas need to be engaged with critically, just as Aristotle himself engaged critically with the ideas of his teacher, Plato. This means rejecting some of Aristotle's thought where necessary, his ideas about women, about slaves, about racial hierarchy, refining other ideas, and above all, creatively adapting the universal truths to the vastly different social and technological world that we inhabit. So, in some ways, our motto is that of the German poet Goethe: "What you have as heritage, take now as task, for thus you will make it your own." So we constantly have to reappropriate Aristotle for our own circumstances, and that requires thinking for ourselves. His ideas need to be rediscovered, creatively adapted to contemporary life, and also these ideas need to be placed in dialogue with ethical and political ideas that have dominated our horizon for too long. Ideas such as that the human good consists merely in the satisfaction of human preferences or desires, that the goal of public policy is the maximization of wealth or the promotion of economic growth, and that compliance with human rights is all we need for an ethical life and a good society. Of course, capturing the significance of ancient wisdom for contemporary conditions is a very difficult task. That's why we have two panels of brilliant young scholars from around the world who are themselves using Aristotle to think rigorously about the AI-dominated future that they themselves will be inhabiting. And that's also why we have a practitioners panel later today, because we need all the help we can get in meeting the challenges of AI. And this requires real Socratic dialogue that engages the perspective of technologists, policymakers, entrepreneurs, among others, not least ordinary citizens. And in this context, it's probably appropriate to announce that the Institute for Ethics in AI is very fortunate in having received a gift of £8 million from the Schwarzman Foundation for an accelerator program that will enable us to bring into our community visiting accelerator fellows from these different domains, technology, policy making, civil society, so that we can have that genuine, multidisciplinary, multi-perspective dialogue that we need if we're truly to understand how AI can be used for the good in contemporary conditions. The final thing I want to say is more personal. I'm deeply aware that the two themes I've highlighted, philosophical inquiry into the good life and the longing for democratic self-government, are not just ideas buried in the ancient Greek past. They have an enduring presence in Greek history to this day. I was born in Australia. My parents were born in Greece. I first came to this country 50 years ago when they brought me here to visit Greece after the colonel's dictatorship fell. And I was able to see for myself that the philosophical and democratic impulses are very much alive in Greek life. And in this connection, I want to end by quoting a remarkable passage from Mark Mazau's recent book about the Greek Revolution of 1821. It describes how even Greek warships that were fighting the Ottomans were run along democratic lines. So here's the quotation. Not only was there no unified command over the fleet, there was nothing that Europeans or Americans would have recognized as a structure of command on board. There were, of course, different ranks of sailors who earned different wages, but there was great freedom of expression and a practice of consultation among them. As one young Greek volunteer wrote, there was no compulsion, and in fact, there was no discipline on board in the common meaning of the word. Each man had voluntarily entered the vessel. Each was at perfect liberty to go when he pleased. While on board, each had a voice in every question relating to the voyage, management, and movement of the vessel. Josh Ober, in his wonderful book, Demopolis, defines democracy as living with no boss. And this picture of life on these Greek ships is perhaps an extreme illustration of democratic life with no boss. But if we ask ourselves, who is in control of the ship of AI development today? The answer will be a small handful of powerful tech corporations. And also some governments, of course, often unduly influenced by the wealth and the glamour of those corporations. So it is an exaggeration, but not too much of an exaggeration, to say that the Lyceum Project aims to bring some of the radical democratic spirit of the Greek Revolution to the AI revolution. I want to end by thanking two of our sponsors, the Patrick J. McGovern Foundation and the Cosmos Institute, in addition to the 4 organizing institutions. And I'm going to now turn over to Josh Ober, my esteemed co-author and colleague.
So it's my great pleasure to offer my own thanks to the many people and the multiple organizations that came together to make this conference possible. It was not simply a matter of one person's vision. This was a vision that came together because we had so many great partners. So let me thank all of them. And on a personal note, I first came here to Athens about 45 years ago as a student. I'd been studying the history of ancient Greece for a number of years. I was a PhD student by that time, and I thought I knew something about the place. But when I came here, I learned a completely new set of things. My wife and I lived in Makariani on Veku Street, and it was our relationships with the Greek people, the people we met in our neighborhood during our travels, the shepherds I talked with on the tops of mountains. Through that, I came to fall in love with Greece. And that love has never ended. Greece has become my second home, the home of my heart. And I just am so honored that I can offer, through a few remarks now, through working with John and our wonderful sponsors, a small thanks for all I've been given, the remarkable gift that you have all given to me. Well, the AI revolution through which we're now living holds great promise to enhance individual and collective flourishing, delivering us from the drudgery of dangerous and unrewarding work, accelerating the process of scientific discovery, making access to education, health, and justice more efficient, more widespread, making democratic citizenship deeper and more meaningful. But for this bright promise to be realized while also warding off the dangers that are attendant upon this transformative technology, we will need a compelling ethical framework, a framework that is both strong and flexible enough to guide our choices about the development and deployment of AI systems. This framework, we believe, need not be built from scratch. Rather, its key elements already exist in the ethical thought of Aristotle, a thinker who stood at the pinnacle of scientific and philosophical achievement in his time, and whose thought continues to inspire us today. The Aristotelian framework offers a humanistic and truly human-centered approach to the ethics of AI. It's an approach that makes the cultivation and the exercise of our distinctive human capacities for reason, for communication, and social engagement central to individual well-being and to the common good. Moreover, in translating our ethical deliberations into political decisions, it places great emphasis on a radically participatory conception of democracy. The Aristotelian framework is, we believe, richer and more compelling than the two ethical approaches that have dominated the ethical discourse on AI in the West. As John has suggested, these are variants of preference maximizing utilitarianism, or their economic wealth maximizing cousins on the one hand, and the legal discourse of human rights on the other. These dominant approaches operate with what we believe is an impoverished scheme of values. AI ethics without Aristotle threatens to reduce AI ethics to a technological or a technocratic exercise. AI ethics with Aristotle is an inclusive process of deliberation and decision-making oriented towards the common good. So our core Aristotelian thesis is that AI systems should be conceived primarily as intelligent tools. These are tools that we human beings can deploy to enhance the prospects of human flourishing, both individual and communal. It's this goal, not artificial general intelligence that replicates human cognitive capacities across their entire spectrum, that ought to guide us in developing this powerful new technology. We need AI tools to enhance our ability to engage in meaningful and productive work, not to replace us in the familiar human endeavors that are vital sources for us of achievement, friendship, and self-esteem. And along with addressing legitimate worries about the misuse of AI technology to subvert the informed, engaged, and civil public discourse that democracy requires, we should use it to build participatory democracy in modern states. AI should enable us to realize the Aristotelian goal of free and equal citizens ruling and being ruled in turn. Now, no ethical framework can provide ready answers to the many highly specific and context-dependent regulatory challenges posed by AI. These must remain the province of democratic publics, informed but not dominated by technical experts. Yet the Aristotelian framework offers valuable markers for regulation and development. And these include, first, the need to articulate a convincing account of the positive good that AI can help us achieve under a humanistic and pluralistic account of our values. Next, the limits of safety as an overarching rubric for regulating AI. Third is the need for global regulation of AI, but global regulation that remains appropriately targeted at those challenges that genuinely require universal standards and that does not usurp powers of decision that properly belong to sovereign states or local associations. And finally, it is the importance of recognizing a human right to a human decision to ensure that the most consequential decisions bearing on human interests and rights and duties are not offloaded to AI systems that, for the foreseeable future anyway, exhibit severe limitations in explainability, in accountability, and in human solidarity. So all of these will be played out in a lot more detail in the white paper for those of you who choose to download it and read it. Well, the Aristotelian framework is not a panacea. No philosophical framework could reasonably claim to meet all the profound ethical challenges raised by artificial intelligence. But it does offer rational grounds for hope in that endeavor. The essential starting point is the recognition that the evolution of AI technology is not a fate that we are helpless to affect. We have choices, and the real question is who gets to make those choices? How are they made, and on what basis? What is needed above all is informed and engaged democratic citizens, motivated to deliberate as free and equal persons about the place of AI technology in achieving common goods. Our hope is that this conference will begin to show why and how each citizen, each of you, and each of the citizens of the world can play their own part in choosing our shared future.